We're here in Sacramento with Dir Nemeth, who leads our state's Department of Water Resources. And we wanted to talk to Carla and get an update around the storms we're experiencing, flood threats, and just what's happening. So Carla, obviously a lot of us across the state, a lot of the country, paying attention to the weather, but I think a lot less people know sort of what Department of Water Resources is doing to protect communities, protect people amidst these storms. Just what's happening.
Yeah, Secretary, we're all experiencing a tremendous series of atmospheric rivers in California, and we're not done. We're about at storm 3 of 6 that are forecasted.
Wow.
We're all looking out over the Pacific, watching them roll in. And so the Department of Water Resources, we have opened our Flood Operations Center. That's where we partner with all of the hundreds of local flood control districts, but also important federal partners that have a role in keeping Californians safe when we get this kind of extreme weather. We've also deployed flood fighting materials, things like rocks and sandbags and other materials at 49 sites all over the state of California. We're very focused on areas where we have burn scars from recent wildfires, and we really need to work very closely with all of our county emergency services, and we just urge all Californians to get signed up for those local county listservs. Rivers and creeks can rise very, very quickly. They can also rise even quicker with moderate rain events if we're in a real series of storms like we are right now.
Wow.
So even if it's not really falling from the sky, it doesn't mean that your local river or creek isn't rising and rising quickly.
So how are things looking given everything that's, everything we're doing to protect communities? We're, within these series of storms, where are areas of vulnerability? Where are your concerns? What do you think the outlook is here for coming days?
Yeah. Well, a lot of our coastal communities are really getting slammed. This particular storm from Crescent City down to LA is just dropping a lot of precipitation. And we're doing a lot of work. Again, that's where we're pre-positioned with a lot of different resources and technical expertise, flood fighting, active flood fighting going on in a lot of those coastal communities. Here in the Central Valley, we're really focused on what we call the state plan of flood control that the department administers along with federal and local partners. And we're looking pretty good. We're looking out at the amount of precipitation that's coming in. We have a tremendous system of not just reservoirs, but levees and bypasses. Those are not yet activated. Here locally in Sacramento, we all see the American River rising. So Folsom is releasing for flood protection. Oroville and Shasta are not. We've activated a couple of our weirs, so you might start to see those over top.
And those are those notches that help water out of the river onto these floodplains?
That's right, and that relieves pressure on the levees that are holding back the main stem of these big river systems. So we haven't even activated those yet, and so that means we're really in pretty good shape. Some of that is due to the drought. I mean, we really dug a big hole in some of our big reservoirs.
Yeah.
But we do anticipate that we are going to activate those as these additional storms come in. That's totally normal. If you're driving over the Yola bypass, that causeway, and you see that start to fill, that's what's supposed to happen, and that's what needs to happen. Give these rivers a little more room. They can really keep us all safe.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you quickly about drought, because you and I are both getting that question. People see a lot of rain and they say, hey, is this a drought buster?
Yeah.
So let me ask the question that probably you're getting annoyed answering. Does this mean we're out of drought?
Not quite. And I have to point out that as of yesterday, when Governor Newsom proclaimed a state of emergency due to flooding, we now have an active drought emergency and a flood emergency that are coincidental. So that is weather whiplash defined. We're not quite out of the drought. We need several more storms. Again, our reservoirs are generally pretty low. Our groundwater banks are very depleted, and those accrete supply a lot more slowly. We want to be in a better position than we are right now to deal with if this storm system shuts off and we go back into dry conditions. We don't have enough stored water right now that would enable us to lift restrictions or do things that are significantly different. Do we love the rain? Absolutely. Turn off your sprinklers. Typically what happens when we have these wet periods, water use goes down anyway, so that's good.
Yep.
But if things shut off and we start to experience that warm and dry condition, we really are going to be right back where we were with drought.
And when will we have a better idea of water supplies headed into the dry
Right.
season?
Well, we're going to get through January. If we see more and more storms towards the back end of January, that's a very good sign. Other key features of, where are we in the drought really come into play when we start very actively measuring runoff. That tends to happen more in February and March. Also, what really comes into play, with warm conditions, are we experiencing these high ambient temperatures? Do we have a big heat wave, coming at us in March where we're in the 80s? Does that trigger a more rapid snow melt? So all these things come into play when we think about how snowpack does translate into runoff into rivers, streams, and reservoirs. Right now, this is great. I'm not looking a gift horse in the mouth. We want everybody to stay safe, but we need more of these to really get out of the drought.
Got it. So key takeaway is it's really early days in
Yep.
in the winter to understand how this impacts the drought.
Yep.
Last question. You've been such a strong advocate in recent years for continued funding on flood protection. And sometimes that's felt fairly conceptual when we're in this hot,
Right.
dry drought conditions. And thanks to you and so many others, Governor, Legislature, we've been able to secure real funding for flood protection. Can you talk about those investments and how they're coming to bear this next couple weeks?
Yeah. Well, the last time we had this kind of a series of storms was 2017. No surprise there. We were ending a drought with a big water year. The department, together with our local and federal partners, have made tremendous investments in a lot of key areas. Starting with the coast, the state has made an investment of about $825 million since 2017, so in the last 5 years there. Those kinds of projects are definitely helping those coastal communities right now. Things would be much worse if we hadn't gotten that investment in the ground. Here in the Central Valley, the state of California has provided about $250 million in the Sacramento Valley to the Feather River watershed, those feather levees that take care of communities like Yuba City, Gridley, Biggs. I'm really proud that those local communities are the first in the Central Valley to achieve that 200-year flood protection. The California Legislature in 2005 identified all these levees that protect our urban communities. They need to be at 200-year protection. That's the first place in the valley that has achieved that, which is fantastic.
Wow.
Locally here along the American River, the state has put $500 million into what we call the American River Common Features Project. That's really dealing, folks who were here in the late 90s, remember rowboats and all those sorts of things. There's tremendous investment all told. There's about a $1.8 billion set of projects that are protecting all of these communities here in the Sacramento area. A little bit further to our south in the Stockton area, the state has contributed about $325 million to critical flood protection projects in that area. We've got a lot more work to do along the San Joaquin. We don't quite have the same bypass system that we do that protects the Sacramento Valley. There's a lot of opportunities and a lot of need. So significant, billions in investments in the last 5 years, but this really shows there's more to do when we anticipate additional, they may not be as frequent, but they're going to be more and more extreme, and we got to be ready.
Wow. Well, listen, I just want to thank you and the men and women at DWR that are working with our federal and local agencies to keep us all safe here this month. And there's work that all of us can do to stay safe. First, where you can, stay home. Avoid non-essential travel during the peak of these storms. Secondly, be prepared. Carla and others have helped us understand there's real potential for power outages that some of us have experienced, for unanticipated conditions. So have those supplies handy, whether it's flashlights or extra water, and listen to your local authorities and abide guidance as it comes in. And then lastly, take time to check on vulnerable neighbors, seniors or those homebound, to make sure that they're staying safe and they have what they need during these storms. Together we can protect ourselves, our families, and our communities. Thanks so much, Carla.
Thank you.